we'll go ahead and get started. And if anyone else joins, we can just catch them up on what we've covered and see if they have any questions about any of those items. Peter, since you're the only one here, we'll go around and just introduce ourselves. I'm John. I'm the general manager for First Transit at the City of Nashua, Nashua Transit.
I'm Angela. I'm the mobility manager here.
I'm Sara. I'm the communications specialist for Nashua Transit.
I'm Camille Correa. I'm the transit administrator for Nashua Transit.
Okay, and just I have to read this real quick. So as transit administrative facility, this transit matters meeting, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. If you're having trouble connecting, you can call 603-821-2030 to help you figure out a way to participate. And with that said, we can start on the first agenda item, which is a safety message from John.
So it's obviously the start of the summer season. There's a lot more pedestrian traffic and a lot more people participating in recreational activities in and around the city, especially recreational motion. And so my safety message of the day was to remember to make sure that we're, as passengers and as pedestrians, make sure that we're using crosswalks and sidewalks appropriately. If we were on some sort of motorized form of recreational mobility, that we make sure that we're in the street instead of on the sidewalk so that we're not hitting pedestrians. And then the last thing would be to remind everyone to always wait for the bus to go by after you've disembarked before crossing the road. Less than a month ago, we had a pedestrian step out the front of the bus and cross in front of the bus and was almost hit by a police officer who was in the next lane over and could not see her. The bus makes a really large blind spot for other motorists. And thankfully, this police officer had a sense that there might be someone walking around the corner of the bus and had already started to slow down before the passenger stepped out. So she got very lucky. She just took a little ride on his hood and then continued on her journey for the day. But we just want to, remind people to always wait for the bus to go by before they step to cross the street. The next item on the agenda is also one that I'm going to cover, and it's COVID-19. Obviously the mask mandates for the state ended about a month ago, and the mayor let the mask mandate in the city lapse in the last 2 weeks. So masks are no longer required in most of the places in the city of Nashua. Unfortunately, however, that's not the case for onboard the buses. Any form of transportation tends to put people from a lot of different walks of life together. People from different neighborhoods, different families all end up sitting really close together for longer than they would in basically any other situation. And so the CDC and the FTA are continuing to require face mask use on board any sort of public conveyance. That includes airlines and buses, trains, subways. So we are continuing to require face masks. And at this point, the order that requires those face masks is set to carry through the end of September. So we anticipate just continuing to follow that order until that point. I don't foresee a situation where they would end that order prematurely. It takes more work to end it than to just wait for it to lapse. And so I imagine that that's probably what will happen. So that we'll be continuing this way at least until September, and we'll continue to follow that guidance. If I think if the situation changes and the infection rate starts to head the other direction and goes up, we might even see that order extended longer, and we would continue to follow whatever those orders are. It makes things as safe as they can be on board the bus, which it's not perfect, but at least we're doing what we can. If you rode the bus normally, you would also probably see that we have changed from having masks that are readily available and free to grab as you get on board, to having masks only available by asking the driver. When masks were mandated far and wide, it was pretty easy to get masks for any number of reasons. FEMA was providing masks, a bunch of different social service agencies were providing masks, and so we were able to provide masks for free on board the bus. And as that mask mandate has ended, the availability of free masks has diminished. So we're trying to make sure that the masks that we have continue to allow riders to get masks when they get on board without having to deny anyone service. But we find ourselves unable to continue to provide multiple masks to people who don't have them. So we made that change. Anyone else have any updates for COVID-19 that I am forgetting?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So next up, we've got Angela talking about service guides.
Yep. So Nashua Transit's been working on creating comprehensive service guides for our demand response service, which is a shared ride origin to destination transportation service. So we're working on 3 service guides. One is going to be for those that qualify under the Americans with Disabilities Act. One will be for Nashua seniors who are 65 and over, and the other will be for residents of either Hudson or Merrimack. All of the guides will include an overview of the service, who's eligible, how to schedule rides, and NTS's policies and procedures. Sorry if you can hear this in the back. We hope to have these completed within the next few weeks, including a Spanish version. So if you, Peter, have anything that you would like to provide, like input-wise, we could be interested in hearing what you have to say. I can put my email in the chat and you can message me. That's all.
So the service guides are going to be a really nice addition to what we have available for passengers as they try to understand how our service works. Because right now, that information kind of lives in a number of different places, and it's not necessarily specific to one service. So when someone qualifies for a service, they have to kind of weed through the materials and pick and choose what things apply to them. And this will put all of the applicable rules for any service into one document. So that should really help to make it clearer what to expect and how to ride and what times you can go and all of those things. So it should be a really nice addition for us.
Oh, yes, Peter? Were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I kind of do have a question. I wouldn't generally ask this, but I think you probably have the time. I am a senior citizen and I'm aware I can ride the buses for free, okay? But I didn't know there were any other kind of services. There are other, for people who retired, are there other services available?
Yeah, so in Nashua, we also offer demand response service for seniors. The rules are a little bit different. It's kind of as we have availability on our paratransit vans. So obviously ADA takes priority, and so people who have mobility challenges are the highest priority. But then seniors can book trips 2 days in advance for shopping or for medical. That way you could get to a doctor's appointment and get back, or get to the grocery store and get back without having to ride the fixed route bus. You know, those services I find help, especially for doctor's appointments where you know, the bus schedule doesn't line up perfectly. And so as a way to avoid sitting in the lobby of the doctor's office for an hour before and then an hour after your appointment, you can book a demand response ride and get there within an hour of your appointment and then get picked up within a half an hour after your appointment. So those services are available, and you can actually learn more about the application process and those things on our website. That's rideBigBlue.com. If you're routinely in the transit center, you can talk with Tracy. She could also explain to you how that all works.
Okay, thanks. I don't need the service personally, but I know people that are my age that have more medical issues.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's for, to help help increase access to healthcare and to try to make it so you're not dependent on someone else to go and do grocery shopping, right? Because ready access to healthcare and shopping helps to increase, a lot of seniors' quality of life, and so that's the goal. And obviously, you're still getting around well, but as people age in place and getting around the city becomes more and more challenging, maybe they're giving up their car. We're trying to help bridge that gap and keep people healthy where they are as long as possible.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So next up is just a quick summary of what's going on with the transit center renovation. We have gone through the process of engineering, and we went out to bid for a general contractor, and that contract has been awarded. And actually tomorrow is the first meeting to talk about the schedule for the start of construction on the transit center. The goal is to start this summer and to be done before this winter. I think we're in a pretty good spot right now. Obviously, there's a lot of construction downtown with the new Performing Arts Center. And so it's going to be challenging to work those two job sites that are so close together simultaneously. But that's part of what the whole contract focused on, was making sure that we could continue to run service and work around the other challenges that are already occurring downtown. For passengers, I think the thing that will end up being impacted is just where we get on and off the bus during construction. We have plans to platform at a number of different places, either all the buses on one side of the platform, or all the buses on Elm Street, or all the buses on Garden Street, just kind of depending on what's going on. And so we'll be providing updates to that through our Civic Engage alerts. Peter, do you have that Civic Engage app? Do you use the bus enough to have to need to know when the bus service is changing?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me. I don't use the app. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. So we usually, our alerts for passengers go to two places, right? Either to Facebook or to that Civic Engage app. They also go onto our website as a banner across the top. But if you wanted to know same day what changes were happening, one of those two other outlets would be the easiest way. So that's where we will be posting the information about any changes. None of the changes should have a huge impact. Like, I don't foresee us having to drop any routes or change any schedules. It'll just be, where is the bus boarding today? And there'll be signage at the transit center to help clarify that.
Actually, John, I have that. I get alerts from the city about paving, and also if like the bus has to be a detour 6 or 6A and then they're back to regular service. I know when I was riding the bus to work, the bus broke down, so I think that might have impacted that particular route.
Yeah. Hi, Kelly. Welcome.
Hi, I was in another meeting, sorry. I
No,
was
that's
wondering
fine.
about when the new schedules are gonna be out, the transit guides. I think you had said something that they're gonna teach you how to read the schedule, the ride guides.
Yeah,
Yep.
our new ride guides will have the how to ride the bus and how to read the schedule on them. I just sent them to get printed today, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, by next week we'll have new ones. If not, hopefully the following week. But that will only be day. We don't have the night ones ready yet, but the daytime ones we should have very soon.
How do I grab a copy before they're all gone in English? Because I don't read Spanish. Those seem to go the most, the English ones.
Yep.
Kelly, we also just installed down at the transit center on the windows. I don't know if you've seen it yet. There are, we put all the bus schedules on the windows so that you can look at the schedule while you wait on the platform.
Yeah, I've seen
that'll
that. I was like, oh, when are the schedules come out? They just changed the windows so you can't really see out as well, but they have all the information, all the routes. And I know that the last time they had done the ride guides was 2020. I was like, well, this is kind of a little old because the pilot project isn't a pilot project, it's permanent. So I was curious about that too.
Yep. So coming right out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So let's see, I think, does anyone have any questions about the transit center renovation or curious about anything that's going on there? I don't know how much of that you heard, Kelly.
I didn't hear any of it. I was just wondering if they're gonna like use something about replacing the bathrooms and maybe new floors in the transit center.
Yeah.
Are they gonna
so-
upgrade the air conditioning and heating? Cause last time I was in there, it was like 90 degrees and I said, oh, sorry, the air conditioning is not working. And then I've been in
Right.
there in the winter. Sorry, the heat's not working.
Yep. So the mechanical space at the transit center is up in the attic. And one of the primary reasons for this renovation is to improve that mechanical space and make it easier to work. We've known for a little while that the HVAC system in the mechanical space needed to be replaced, but the way that the building was built, there was no way to replace it without opening the wall. So that would be opening the end wall of the building. Moving forward, when we do this renovation, there'll be adequate access so that mechanical equipment can get moved in and out. And if down the road we had to change out the mechanical equipment, it would be easier to do and it wouldn't require us to, cut holes.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
and that's part of the reason why the repairs have been kind of Band-Aid repairs for
Yes.
the last year or so, because we knew that we were in line to have this overhaul done, and we didn't want to spend a lot of money and we didn't really have the money to spend. This grant money is how we have the money to make these improvements. So
Right.
trying to get
Would you know when it's gonna start the /construction renovation?
Yep. So the first meeting to talk about the schedule, the actual construction schedule, is tomorrow. The plan is for construction to start this summer, so in the next couple of months, and to go hopefully complete before frost. So it will be relatively quickly. Specifics about what phases are going to happen and what part of the building is going to be open or closed will all come to light hopefully starting tomorrow. But you also asked about bathrooms, and that is the number one thing that this renovation is going to address. We're going to have male and female bathrooms with some improvements as far as, one, they'll still have the privacy that you need in order to have facilities, but they won't have doors that can be closed and locked so that people can't go in there and feel like they have their own little place, because we do have some challenges with drug use and some other things that happen in there, because it does feel like a private, safe place where people do some things that they really shouldn't do in a public bathroom.
Right.
So the bathroom door now will be right off of the area where the transit clerk is, so that she has better ability to keep track of who's going in and out. And like I said, there will be men's and women's bathrooms, so that we have, one, the ability for more people to use the bathroom if they need to in between pulses, without having that sense of, okay, I can go lock myself in here for 25 minutes and do something that I shouldn't be doing. So
Right, because I noticed with only one bathroom, it was like people pounding on the door, let me in, hurry up. And it's like, oh, it's kind of like if you're in there, you don't really want to hear that, yes, I want to get in, being that
Right.
there's only one bathroom rather than two. So that was problematic, I think.
Yeah, and having someone banging on the door, I find, does not help that situation go any faster. So
No, it doesn't.
So yeah, that should be a nice improvement. And then you asked about the floors, and yes, the floors are going to get replaced, and some other cosmetic changes, some security things as well. We're going to be improving the security for Tracy's area, so that when she does have the occasional rare irate person, because she is there by herself for about 7 hours out of the day, she'll be in an area that's harder for someone else to get into. And there'll also be some minor improvements for the drivers, just some quality of life things to make it a little easier for them. And they won't have to come out into the public space to use their bathroom. That'll be right off of the driver's lounge in the back. So
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
I
So
was
we're
wondering
really
about do you know when they're going to open it up to sell bus tickets? Like you have to ring the buzzer. I just basically do the transit transit, token transit right now, but I was wondering like the method of payment for like a paper pass. What is the method of payment on that right now?
So to get a paper pass, you would go to the transit center during the hours, right? So between 8 and noon or 1 and 5, and you would buzz for Tracy and she would let you in, and then you could pay the same ways you've paid in the past.
I want to pay by credit card. Is that possible?
It is not. If you
I
are
didn't
trying
think
to
so,
pay-
because I get reimbursed if I have it go to a credit card from Gateways, like $150 on transportation. So it's like, hey, here's my credit card bill, and I have to scan it over to them. And I know if I give them cash, I have no proof, and a check is kind of, maybe I
Well,
wouldn't be able to get a copy of it or whatever.
if you did use cash, you would get a receipt that would say what you bought and how much you paid. So there's a receipt goes with every purchase at the transit center, because that's, the city's accounting also requires receipts. So you
Right.
could use cash and you could get reimbursed for cash as long as you didn't lose the receipt.
Oh, I
But
wouldn't lose it.
so if you're using credit card, the nice thing about token transit is the pass starts from when you actually initiate the pass and it lasts the 30 days. If you go
Yeah.
to the transit center and buy a paper pass, let's say it's the 7th of the month before you get there, that pass is only good for 23 days then, because it still expires at the end of the month, regardless of whether you bought it on the 1st, the 7th, the 14th, the
Actually, I
20th.
think my last one said I had 31 days left when I had bought it. And I was like, well, I'm not going to buy it until I actually ride the bus. Because some days I don't ride the bus and then I had to go to work. And I was like, well, I'll buy it on the day I go to work, but I'll just like load it up in case I can't get internet access and that kind of
Yep.
thing. Because that's
Mhm.
sometimes the internet doesn't work on my phone. I have to get that fixed. So I can't really prove that I have the token transit, and then I'll just have to pay cash. And I know some of the drivers are like, I want to see it every single time. And the other drivers are like, I don't care. We know you have it. So maybe if it would just be more consistent among drivers, whether you have to show it or not show it would be good.
Well, so I think, if you were to look at what our standard is, they all should be asking you to show it every time.
Right.
If they saw your monthly pass this morning when you got on their bus, and they elected not to make you show it this afternoon, I would not have a huge issue with that, but they're
Right.
trained to require it every time. All right, so you also asked about when we might be opening Tracy's area
Yes.
without using the buzzer. We talked at the beginning about the executive order that requires masks in transit properties through the middle of September or end of September. And our plan is when that order ends, we would open the transit center the way that it had been in the past. So no
Yeah,
buzzing.
I see people not wearing the masks when they're in there in the
Right,
transit center or on
and
the
that's part of the
bus. And that
reason
makes
why.
me kind of mad because I actually always wear my mask because I know it's a
Mhm.
federal law.
Yep. And so, Tracy does try to police that as best she can, but she can't be everywhere all the time. She can't see everything. If you ever have an issue where there's not a space where you feel safe because there's people without masks and you don't feel like you can be far enough away from them, you're, encouraged to go and just let Tracy know, hey, I'm looking for a place to sit and there's a gentleman sitting in there without a mask and I don't feel comfortable because there's no space for me. And she'll help you to address that. Like I said, she's trying to monitor it, but she can't see everyone every time.
Right.
Okay. All right. If you don't have any other questions about transit center renovation, I'll move on to talking about Hampton Beach.
Sure.
All right. So last year, obviously, we didn't go to Hampton Beach at all because of COVID-19. And this year, now that some of the restrictions have been lifted and we've gotten to a place where it seems like there's stuff to do when you get to the beach, we are going to run 2 weekends of Hampton Beach service this year. The first one is going to be August 14th. So that's the second Saturday in August. And then the second one will be September 11th. That's the weekend of the Seafood Festival. The service is going to run largely the same way it has in the past, with one bus early in the morning. I think it's at 8:40 we're departing the transit center, The second one will leave 2 hours later at 10:40. That gives folks an opportunity to use the bus system to get to the bus to go to Hampton Beach. And then both buses will come back from Hampton Beach at 4:40 in the afternoon to get back here. 4:40 or 4:30, I don't remember exactly which one, but it'll be before 5 in the afternoon to try to get off of the beach before the traffic gets bad enough that we just sit there for an hour.
Right.
Tickets are going to go on sale in July, and we're going to do that the same way we've done it in the past. So, you know, the first morning that tickets are on sale, they'll start going on sale at 8 o'clock, and people are welcome to come and buy tickets. We encourage everyone to buy their tickets in advance. We are limiting it to 4 tickets per ride per passenger. So just to try to keep from having one person come and buy 26 tickets and buy a whole bus, and not letting other people have a chance to get to go to Hampton. So so that service has been really popular, and there've been a lot of people who've been asking if we're going to do it again, and we're excited to get to do at least a couple and get people out to see something besides beautiful Nashua.
Right. I'm not really interested, but I'm sure other people will be.
Mhm.
Like you said, it's been popular.
Yep. All right, moving right along. We recently acquired a new car through a grant focused on electric technologies. We were able to acquire an electric car for driver transportation to and from the garage to the transit center. Every day we have 4 or 5 trips that have to take place between our office and the transit center to move drivers to and from their bus and get them on their way home. So we've got a new electric car. I drove it actually yesterday, and it drives really nice. It's a really nice little vehicle. It's going to be a nice addition for us. It's going to plug in here at the garage. The grant included enough money to do initially what we thought was going to be 1 or 2 charging stations. And then because we didn't have to upgrade our power as much as we thought we were going to have to, we actually ended up with enough to do 3 charging stations. So we're going to put in a fair amount of electric infrastructure here, which will mean that down the road, as we add more electric vehicles, we'll have the infrastructure in place. We actually have 2 electric hybrid buses on order as well. So in the near future, we'll have 5 electric technology vehicles in our fleet. Let's see. The last thing that I have to talk about today is new hires. So it's been a while since we've had regular Transit Matters meetings, and we do have some new drivers. The most recent driver to hit the road is Mike DeRocha. He's a taller driver. He's been with us for almost a month now, and he previously drove for First Student in Nashua, so he's very familiar. He's from town, been here for a long time. So we welcome him. We have a couple of drivers in training right now. Lucas and Mario, they both started training this week, or last week rather, so they should be on the road here at the end of the month. And they both have bus driving experience as well, one for Greyhound and one for school bus transportation. So we're excited to get them on board. And yeah, that's that for that. I think the last agenda item we have is Camille wanted to talk a little bit about our DBE program. So I'll pass the floor over to her.
I did also just want to introduce Camille to everyone too. Camille is our new transit administrator. So welcome, Camille.
Oh, thank you, Sarah, and thank you, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for writing our system. We're happy to have you on board, and there's so many places to go along the route, and I will be writing soon, and I hope to see you on board. I also stop by the transit center a few times a week, and so I may see you there. Thank you for writing. Under item agenda number 8, under the DBE goals, we have a goal that we have to set every 3 years for 3 years. And our goal starts on October 1st of 2021 and will go through September 30th of 2024. This goal is, well, the intent of the goal is to provide small businesses owned and controlled by women and minorities with the opportunity to compete for work on federally funded transportation contracts. What we'll be doing is we will be posting the information on our website. We will also be allowing for an opportunity for a 30-day comment period for people to provide any comments in regards to the program and the percentage that we will be meeting for our goal. Our first year of our goal starts October 1st, is in regards to our transit center. And because we're doing the construction, our goal the first year is 20%. The second and third year, we believe it'll be closer to 0.5%. And that's because in our area, we do not have a lot of minority-owned businesses that fall under the DBE guidance. And part of what we do throughout our whole goal making and methodology period is we also extend to any organization that fits within the guidance of the federal rules, which is controlled by women or minorities, businesses that are small under a certain capita, that they can contact the state and the state will help them to become a DBE. So when we are going to festivals or we're going to meetings, then we will be able to provide this information to any organization that works with small businesses. So if anyone has any questions for me about the DBE goals, please let me know. Otherwise, our information will be posted in the paper starting on Sunday to open up the public comment period, and will also be posted on our website. Thank you, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if you know anyone who has a business or is, you know, an upstart with a business, that can be a really big leg up, right? Because it gives you a little bit of an advantage competitively when you're bidding on work. So it's a really great way to give economic opportunities to people who the system has not usually given a lot of opportunities to. So if you know anyone, please encourage them, because we really don't get much DBE interest when we go out to bid for the few services that we do have to go out to bid for. So it'd be nice to get some. All right, that takes us through our last agenda items. So I'd love to open up the floor and, you know, hear any comments, criticisms, compliments. If anyone has anything that they'd like to talk about, any suggestions or any of that stuff, you know, this is a good time to let us hear how things are going and what we can do better, or just thank yous.
I have something that just occurred to me. We used to have these trolley-looking buses going through downtown. Are we still doing that?
So we actually phased the trolleys out. The trolleys were built as a 7-year bus, so that was supposed to be their useful life. We actually kept the trolleys in the fleet for close to 12 years. And over time, the challenges of using the stairs in the trolleys became a real barrier for a lot of people. You know, the average age of the city of Nashua has continued to increase every year. And so as that happens, the fact that we had some pretty tall stairs to get in and out of the trolleys made them less and less desirable. We actually kept one trolley in our overflow fleet, in our reserve fleet, that we'd love to use for special events when we have an opportunity to do something like in the past we did, you know, different festivals like the Rib Fest. We would use a vehicle like that because it's nice, it's open air. Our Polar Express event, the trolley is a really nice look. It's got the right feel for that type of special event. And so that's why we kept that vehicle. And if we had a number of vehicles go down, we could conceivably put the trolley into service. But thankfully, we're not in a position that we need to do that because our vehicles have been pretty reliable. So,
Yeah, I mean, the reason I just brought it up is because, you know, I'm on the master plan committee, and they're always talking about downtown, besides lots of other places. But just lately, they were talking about maybe, you know, extending what's going on downtown with restaurants down further towards that shopping center and whatnot, and what they might do down there. So you end up with this longer stretch that people might be a little bit longer than they want to walk, you know, when they're out already at the at the new center they're building and all of that kind of stuff. So having something that, like a bus that just goes back and forth on Main Street or something that looks like with the flavor of, what we're trying to do downtown would kind of be nice. And I just
Yeah.
remember not noticing the buses lately. Okay.
Yeah. So one of the reasons you probably don't see buses downtown is because of the new barriers that were put in place. It's made downtown obviously more business friendly, and we all really support that. We support the fact that now there's more reason for people to be downtown and to be patronizing those businesses, and that's great. Unfortunately, it is not very bus friendly. We already had a number of accidents on Main Street due to the number of lane shifts and turning lanes. So Main Street was already an area of concern for us. And then with this continued narrowing of Main Street, we actually rerouted the buses so that we could just avoid being directly on Main Street. Now we serve both streets on either side of Main Street to try to help provide access. And so we do circulate pretty well around downtown without just going right up the heart of all of those restaurants' new seating areas. And to your point about some sort of circulator, I think we've done circulators in the past, and it'd be great to get to the place where the ridership merits having that type of circulator. But when we have had them in the past, the ridership was very, very low, to the point where we couldn't justify having the bus rolling all day. Hopefully down the road, Nashua becomes more and more of a walking city. And then as that happens, a circulator makes more and more sense, because now, if you're parking at the garage, like the High Street garage, and you're trying to get to someplace at the farther end of Main Street, having a bus would make more sense. So, hopefully that makes sense someday again in the future. Kelly, do you have anything? Comments, suggestions?
I was just concerned with, I know Camille Pattinson left. Who to address my complaints about the drivers not wearing masks, the passengers not wearing masks, like specifics like Route 6, Bus 219 or whatever.
Mhm.
I was just wondering about that.
So you can address those to me, and you can actually include Camille Correa as well.
Okay.
So she's in that same role that Camille Pattinson was in, and so we can take those from there. And I do appreciate you providing that feedback, because we don't always know when it's happening, and it is helpful. One thing that would be helpful for me, Kelly, is if you are on a bus and the driver isn't wearing a mask, include that in your email. If you just see a bus driving and you see that the driver doesn't have a mask, knowing that you weren't on board is helpful. The drivers are allowed to operate the bus without their mask if there is no one on board. So if they have no passengers, they're allowed to drop their mask. And so, when I watch the video back to see whether the driver was okay to not have their mask on or not, I can't see whether we have passengers on board on the video.
Yeah, I'll
So
just be specific. Like I was on board and say like Mr. X wasn't wearing, or Mr. or Mrs. X wasn't wearing their mask properly. It's not over their nose. It's not over their mouth. It's not even there. Whatever. That'll be helpful. I'll include that. I
would be
just sit there with my little notebook and take notes every single time I'm on the bus. Oh, this follows this and that. And it seems like I inundated Camille Pattinson with stuff, and then she would forward it to you if she felt it was appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I appreciate knowing that we are having challenges, because it's not something that's easy for me to see, right? Because when I'm in my personal car driving around the city watching drivers and watching driver behavior, they spot my car far enough away that I can't see whether they had their mask on or not, and they put their mask up. So I don't have a good way to find that. And if you're on board and a driver doesn't have a mask, I really do want to know about that.
What about passengers? I also noticed passengers will get on the bus without a mask, and they will maybe have a mask on, and obviously they can't be like eyes in the back of their head. Passengers would take off the mask, and maybe another passenger would say, put your mask back on. I'm fully vaccinated, but I just don't feel comfortable you not wearing a mask, you know. I don't really do that because I figure I don't want to get beat up or something, but some of the passengers I've noticed that they have done that.
Yeah, and so what I would say is kind of like we talked about with the transit center. If there's someone there without a mask and they're preventing you from feeling safe on board the vehicle, and you're having to make a decision about whether you continue to ride the bus or talk to the driver, I would encourage you to go ahead and talk to the driver. I would discourage you from talking directly to another passenger, except maybe to one time and say, hey, would you mind putting your mask on? If they're not compliant with you, I would just advise you to go ahead and talk to the driver if it's making you uncomfortable, and the driver will address it. Like you mentioned, it is really hard for the drivers to notice if the passengers after they've boarded take their masks off. And so I've actually discouraged the drivers from trying to police it while the bus is in motion,
Right.
because I don't want them looking back there. I want their eyes to be on the things that are going to hurt people, which is the traffic in front of them and
Yep.
the cars around them. So, so again, you know, I appreciate that you're not trying to make yourself the mask police, but you know,
Right.
if it comes to the point where you're uncomfortable or it's obvious that someone else on board the bus is uncomfortable, you can definitely discreetly talk to the driver and the driver will address it for you.
Okay.
All right. Anyone have anything else?
Nope, my dehumidifier just turned off because it's full, so I gotta attend to that. It's a little
Okay.
humid today.
Yeah, it is. All right.
I was
So,
wondering, I couldn't really actually read the agenda because I had to do a username and password. I saw that it said, "What? Read the agenda, click here," and it didn't actually let me read the agenda. That's why I didn't know what was on the agenda today. Is that a glitch in the city site?
okay. Yeah, thank you for letting us know. We'll look into that and make sure that next time the agenda is posted, it's a public document and it doesn't require any sort of access.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So if there's no other items for business, our next meeting is scheduled for August 3rd. The way that it seems now, that will be some sort of hybrid meeting in person and maybe a Zoom component additionally, because the executive order that allows for Zoom only meetings will be over by then. So we look forward to seeing some folks in August.
Yeah,
Thank you
maybe
for
I'll
coming.
show up if I'm
Yeah, it'd be
free
great.
in person. I like in
We'll,
person better than Zoom actually, for some things.
yeah, I think that there's definitely a benefit, and it gives people a reason to be out and to see other people face to face. So I think it'll be good. I don't know where we're going to hold that meeting yet, but we'll work through that. We need to find a space where doing a hybrid meeting is easy enough. The space in City Hall where we would normally have Transit Matters is not conducive to hybrid meetings. So
Yeah, I noticed that we used to be in a boardroom or whatever.
yep. So great. All right. Well, that does it. Thank you, everybody.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Bye.
Good to see you guys. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.